Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Welcome back to another video. We in our book 48 Laws of Power, law number 5. We got to get back to our readings. You know, we do a multitude of things on this channel just to keep it fresh and updated. But law 5, and this when I looked at the title, I had to really think about this because this is so true. So much depends on reputation, and it does. Like, I grew up as your word is your bond. If you say you gonna do something, then you pretty much gotta do it. You know, guard it with your life. That is so true. Reputation is the cornerstone of power. Through reputation alone, you can intimidate and win. Once it slips, however, you are vulnerable and will be attacked on all sides. Made me think about Trump and Elon Musk. Trump's reputation is he's no nonsense. He gonna win at all costs. And his reputation precedes itself. Don't play with him. And you gonna, whether you like him or not, you're gonna respect him. He's a no nonsense kind of guy. And people know that. People understand power. Even though Musk is powerful in his own right, in his industries. But Trump got the real power because he can cancel out all his government contracts and he can do a lot of things. But Trump's reputation precedes itself. That's what it meant. And I said, wow, that is so true. Make your reputation unassailable. Like Trump told him, if you decide to fund Democrats, you're going to be sorry. That means he's going to get rid of all his government contracts. You won't get a dime from this. And then what's going to happen? He's going to be bankrupt. And it's so funny that Elon Musk's dad begging Trump to reconcile with his son because he understands the ramifications that can happen with the Trump-Elon Musk mess. Always be alert to potential attacks and thwart them before they can happen. Meanwhile, learn to destroy your enemies by opening holes in their own reputation. Wow, I never even thought about doing that. Then stand aside and let public opinion hang them. Is that not what Trump is doing now? He letting public opinion take over. Genius. During China's War of the Three Kingdoms, the great general Zhou Ling, leading the forces of Shu Kingdom, dispatched his vast army to a distant camp while he rested in a small town with a handful of soldiers. Suddenly, sentinels hurried in with alarming news that an enemy force over 150,000 troops under Sima Yi was approaching. With only 100 men to defend him, Zhou Ling's situation was hopeless. The enemy will finally capture the renowned leader. Without laminating his fate or wasting time trying to figure out how he had been caught, Lang ordered his troops to take down their flags, throw open the city gates, and hide. He himself then took a seat on the most visible part of the city's wall, wearing a pious robe. He lit some incense, strummed his lute, L-U-T-E, and began to chant. Minutes later, he could see the vast enemy army approaching, an endless phalanx of soldiers. Pretending not to notice them, he continued to sing and play the lute. Soon the army stood at the town gates. At his head was Sima Yi, who instantly recognized the man on the wall. Even so, as his soldiers inched to enter the unguarded town through its open gates, Sima Yi hesitated, held them back, and studied Ling on the wall. Then he ordered an immediate and speedy retreat. Chun Li was commonly known as the Sleeping Dragon. His exploits in War, the Three Kingdoms, were legendary. Once a man claiming to be disaffected enemy lieutenant came to his camp offering help and information. Ling instantly recognized the situation as a setup. This man was a false deserter, and soon he was beheaded. At the last minute, though, as the axe was about to fall, Ling stopped the execution and offered to spare the man's life if he agreed to become a double agent. Gratefully and terrified, the man agreed and began supplying false information to the enemy. Wow. Ling won the battle after battle. On another occasion, Ling stole a military seal and created false documents dispatching his enemy's troops to distant locations. Once the troops had dispersed, he was able to capture 3 cities so that he controlled an entire corridor of the enemy's kingdom. He also once tricked the enemy into believing one of his best generals was a traitor, forcing the man to escape and join forces with Ling. The Sleeping Dragon carefully cultivated his reputation of being the cleverest man in China, one who always had a trick up his sleeve. As powerful as any weapon, this reputation struck fear in his enemy. Sima Yi had fought against Choco Ling dozens of times and knew him well. When he came on an empty city with Ling praying on the wall, he was stunned. The tireless ropes, the chanting, the incense, this had to be a game of intimidation. The man was obviously taunting him, daring him to walk into a trap. The game was so obvious that for one moment it crossed Ying's mind that Ling was alone and desperate. But so great was his fear of Ling that he dared not risk finding out. Such is the power of reputation. It can put a vast army on the defensive, even force them into retreat without a single arrow being fired. Damn. Wow. In 1841, the young P.T. Barnum, trying to establish his reputation as an American premier showman, decided to purchase the American Museum in Manhattan and turn it into a collection of curiosities that would secure his fame. The problem was that he had no money. The museum asking price was $15,000, but Barnum was able to put together a proposal that appealed to the institution's owners, even though it replaced cash up front with dozens of guarantees and references. The owners came to a verbal agreement with Barnum, but at the last minute, the principal partner changed his mind, and the museum and its collection were sold to Directors of Peale's Museum. Barnum was infuriated, but the partner explained that business was business. The museum had been sold to Peale's because Peale's had a reputation and Barnum had none. Barnum immediately decided that if he had no reputation to bank on, his only recourse was to ruin the reputation of Peale's. Accordingly, he launched a letter-writing campaign in newspapers, calling the owners a bunch of broken-down bank directors who had no idea how to run a museum or entertain people. He warned the public against buying Peale's stock, since the business purchase of another museum would invariably spread its resources thin. The campaign was effective. The stock plummeted, and with no confidence in Peale's track record and reputation, the owners of American Museum reneged on the deal and sold the whole thing to Barnum. It took years for Peale's to recover, and they never forgot what Barnum had done. Mr. Peale himself decided to attack Barnum by building a reputation of highbrow entertainment, promoting his museum's programs as more scientific than those of his vulgar competitor. Mesmerism or hypnotism was one of Peale's scientific attractions, and for a while it drew big crowds and quite successful. To fight back, Barnum decided to attack Peale's reputation yet again. Barnum organized a rival mesmeric performance in which he himself apparently put a little girl into a trance. Once she seemed to have fallen deeply under, he tried to hypnotize members of the audience, but no matter how hard he tried, none of the spectators fell under his spell, and many of them began to laugh. A frustrated Bynum finally announced that to prove the little girl's trance were real, he would cut off one of her fingers without her noticing. But as he sharpened the knife, the little girl's eyes popped open and she ran away, to the audience's delight. He repeated this in other parties for several weeks. Soon, no one would take Peel's show seriously, and attendance went way down. Within a few weeks, the show closed. Over the next few years, Barnum established a reputation for audacity, common showmanship that lasted his whole life, the Barnum and Bailey Circus. Peel's reputation, on the other hand, never recovered. Barnum used two different tactics to ruin Peel. The first one was simple. He sowed doubts about the museum's stability and solvency. Doubt is a powerful weapon. Once you let it out of the bag with insidious rumors, your opponents are in a horrible dilemma. On one hand, they can deny the rumors, even prove you have slandered them, but a layer of suspicion will remain. Why they defended themselves so desperately? Maybe the rumor has some truth to it. If, on the other hand, they take the high road and ignore you, the doubts unrefuted will even be stronger. If done correctly, the sowing of rumors can so infuriate and unsettle your rivals that in defending themselves, they will make numerous mistakes. This is the perfect weapon for those who have no reputation of their own to work for. Once Barnum did have a reputation of his own, he used the second, gentler tactic, the fake hypnotism demonstration. He ridiculed his rival's reputation. This, too, was extremely successful. Wow. The people around us, even our closest friends, will always to some extent remain mysterious and unfathomable. Their characters have secret recesses that they never reveal. The unknowableness of other people could prove disturbing if we thought about it long enough, since it would make it impossible for us really to judge other people, so we prefer to ignore this fact. And to judge people on their appearances, on what is visible to our eyes, clothes, gestures, words, actions. In the social realm, appearances are the barometer of almost all of our judgments, and you must never mislead into believing otherwise. One false slip, one awkward or sudden change in your appearance can prove disastrous. This is the reason for supreme importance of making and maintaining a reputation that is your own creation. That reputation will protect you in a dangerous game of appearances, distracting the probing eyes of others from knowing what you are really like and giving you a degree of control over how the world judges you. A powerful position to be in. Reputation has the power like magic. With one stroke of its wand, it can double your strength. It can also send people scurrying away from you. Whether the exact same deeds appear brilliant or dreadful can depend entirely on the reputation of the doer. This is good. In ancient Chinese court of Wei Kingdom, there was a man named Ma Tao who had the reputation for supreme civility and graciousness. He became the ruler's favorite. It was the law in Wei that whoever rides secretly in the ruler's coach shall have his feet cut off. But when Mai Tao's mother fell ill, he used the royal coach to visit her, pretending that the ruler had given him permission. When the ruler found out, he said, "How doubtful is Miss Tis he?" For his mother's sake, he even forgot that he was committing a crime, making him liable to lose his feet. Another time, the two of them took a stroll in the orchard. Mai Tai began eating a peach that he could not finish, and he gave the ruler the other half to eat. The ruler remarked, "You love me so much that you would even forget your own saliva taste and let me eat the rest of the peach." Later, however, envious fellow courtiers, spreading word that Mai Tai was actually devious and arrogant, succeeded in damaging his reputation. The ruler came to see his actions in a new light. "This fellow once rode in my coach under the pretense of my order. he told the chorus angrily, and another time he gave me a half-eaten peach. For the same actions that have charmed the ruler when he was his favorite, Montas he now had to suffer the penalties. The fate at his feet depended solely on the strength of his reputation. In the beginning, you must work to establish a reputation, one of outstanding quality, whether generosity or honesty or cunning. This quality sets you apart and gets other people to talk about you. You then make your reputation known to as many people as possible and watch as it spreads like wildfire. A solid reputation increases your presence and exaggerates your strengths without you having to spend much energy. It can also create an aura around you that will instill respect, even fear. In fighting North African desert during World War II, the German general Erwin Rommel had a reputation for cunning and for deceptive maneuvering that struck terror into everyone who faced him, even when his forces were depleted and when British tanks outnumbered him by 5-1. Entire cities would be evacuated at the news of his approach. As they say, your reputation precedes you, and it inspires respect. A lot of your work is done for you before you arrive on the scene or utter a single word. Your success seems disdained by your past triumphs. The success of Henry Kissinger's subtle diplomacy rested on his reputation for ironing out differences. No one wanted to be seen so unreasonable that Kissinger would not sway him. A peace treaty seemed a faint accomplishment as soon as Kissinger's name became involved in negotiations. Make your reputation simple and base it on one sterling quality. This simple quality, efficiency, say, or seductiveness, becomes a kind of calling card that announces your presence and places others under your spell. A reputation for honesty will allow you to practice all manner of deception. Casanova used his reputation as a great seducer to pave the way for his future conquests. Women who had heard of his powers became immensely curious and wanted to discover for themselves what had made him so romantically successful. Perhaps you already stained your reputation so that you are prevented from establishing a new one. In such cases, it is wise to associate with someone whose image contradicts your own, using their good name to whitewash and elevate yours. I never thought about that. It is hard, for example, to erase a reputation of dishonesty by yourself, but a paragon of honesty can help. Wow. Reputation is a treasure to be carefully collected and hoarded, especially when you are first establishing it. You must protect it strictly, anticipating all attacks on it. Once it's solid, do not let yourself get angry or defensive at the slandered comments of your enemies. That reveals insecurity, not confidence in your reputation. Take the high road instead and never appear desperate in your self-defense. On the other hand, an attack on another man's reputation is a potent weapon, particularly when you have less power than he does. He has much power to lose in such a battle, and your own thusful small reputation gives him a small target when he tries to return your fire. Barnum used such campaigns to great effort in his early career, but this tactic must be practiced with skill. You must not seem to engage in petty vengeance. If you do not break your enemy's reputation carefully, you would ruin your own. Wow. There is no possible reversal. Reputation is critical. There are no exceptions to this. Perhaps not caring what others think of you, you gain a reputation for insolence and arrogance, but that can be a valuable image in itself. Oscar Wilde used it to great advantage. Since we must live in society and must depend on opinions of others, there is nothing to be gained by neglecting your reputation. By not caring how you are perceived, you let others decide this for you. Be the master of your own fate and also of your reputation. Damn, that was good. That was good. That was good. Law number 5. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment.